For decades, China played by a simple rule: hide your strength, bide your time. But since taking power, Xi Jinping has ripped up that playbook. Beijing has been loudly promoting a new worldview, claiming the East is rising while the West is declining. Xi's goal has been to shift from the sidelines into the driver's seat of global governance. Put simply, he wants China to go toe-to-toe with the U.S. and rewrite the rules of the global order. But as we move through the first quarter of 2026, that vision is facing a massive reality check. Two of China's closest strategic allies, the Maduro regime in Venezuela and Khamenei's Iranian regime, are reeling from back-to-back crises. So how have the Trump administration's moves in South America and the Middle East been dismantling Xi Jinping's global agenda? We take a closer look.
We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere.
When U.S. forces captured Nicolas Maduro in a matter of hours, Beijing, his highest-level strategic partner, could do little more than issue a verbal protest. No military intervention, no rescue. Instead, the world got a front-row seat to the gap between China's global rhetoric and its actual hard power. Here's what we've gathered. Just hours before his capture, a high-level Chinese delegation met with Maduro. They weren't just blindsided, they were trapped in the chaos for days. A fact the Chinese Foreign Ministry later awkwardly confirmed. Venezuela's defense systems, proudly made in China, proved useless. The sophisticated J-127A anti-stealth radar and long-range surveillance systems, they didn't stand a chance against U.S. technology, sparking debate over whether Chinese military hardware is truly battle-ready. Venezuela's transitional government is already pivoting toward the U.S., signing a major energy deal with the Trump administration. This leaves Beijing's decades of loans for oil deals, an elaborate scheme to bypass sanctions and secure discounted crude, dead in the water. And tens of billions of dollars in Chinese investment could be wiped out overnight.
So basically, down-road doctrine itself is to secure America's backyard. Basically, the backyard is American continent. And down-road doctrine's purpose is to make, United States ready, to support the front line, and the Western front line is the Western Pacific. So that's what it is. Once the American continent or as the American's backyard is fully ready, American, build a very strong backyard. American will be able to face the challenge from the Chinese Communist Party in the Western Pacific.
From South America to the heart of the Middle East, the collapse of Beijing's alliance network continues. A joint U.S.-Israeli strike decapitated Iran's leadership, taking out its regime leader Ali Khamenei and more than 40 members of his inner circle. For China, it's a masterclass in authoritarian solidarity, a friendship with plenty of rhetoric but no backup when the missiles start flying. Here's the fallout. Despite years of talking about a strategic partnership, Beijing has not offered Tehran any formal defense commitment. While Iran's foreign minister touted close military cooperation, Beijing largely stayed on the sidelines as the pressure mounted. China and Iran signed a 25-year economic pact in 2021. But due to the recent Iran war, it's been effectively paralyzed. With the Strait of Hormuz under blockade, China's primary energy lifeline is severely impacted. The country buys over 90% of Iran's oil exports, or roughly 13% of China's total annual supply. That's a serious hit to Beijing's energy security. Ultimately, Khamenei's death isn't just a blow to Iran, it was a disaster for Xi Jinping. For years, China used Iran as a strategic counterweight to tie down U.S. forces in the Middle East. Now that entire anti-American front has crumbled, leaving Beijing's Middle East strategy in ruins.
In order to deter the threat from the CCP in the Western Pacific, he needs to have a very secure backyard. He needs to keep the Western Hemisphere safe. Now, Venezuela has been a long-term airline of the CCP. Iran, basically, it's a part of the evil axis led by the China and Russia on the Euro-Asian continent. Now, in order to weakening the communist regime in China, weakening the newly rise the continental power led by China and Russia, taking down the Iranian regime, it's one of the very smart and actually excellent step to accomplish the goal.
This isn't just a series of isolated moves. It's the execution of a new national security strategy. The Trump administration made one thing clear. America's backyard and domestic security are now the top priorities. Washington is pushing back against Beijing's Western decline narrative and vowing a resurgence of Western power, signaling a shift from retreat to a global counteroffensive.
Our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice. And it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before. And this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
In this new global chess game, the Indo-Pacific is the most important region outside the U.S. Dealing with the China challenge is a top priority. A big part of that is maintaining a clear military edge in the Taiwan Strait to deter Beijing from ever attacking Taiwan. The U.S. wants to make sure any move by China would be way too risky and costly, a strategy rooted in peace through strength. And as the dust settles in Venezuela and Iran, the message to Xi Jinping is unmistakable. The era of American retreat is over.